And I think we're live now. Well, thank you all for coming. Welcome everyone to AI and Human Creativity here in Pakhuis de Zwijger. The fourth program of Designing Technology for All. The fourth time that we organized such an evening. So that's very nice that a lot of people came to this evening tonight. So thank you all for coming. In a world increasingly driven by artificial intelligence and big data, I think questions of fairness, inclusivity, and ethical responsibility are becoming more important every single day, are becoming absolutely vital to ask. And in this new series, Designing Technology for All, seeks to explore these themes. And during this evening that we organized together with Center of Expertise Creative Innovation, also known as COESI, we will explore how generative AI can enhance and also support human creativity rather than diminish it. My name is Mark Vennegan. I'm a lecturer at the University of Applied Sciences in Amsterdam, and I have a background in philosophy, but mainly focused on artificial intelligence. So the philosophical side of artificial intelligence, the ethical side, and that's mainly what I teach as well. And I will be your moderator for tonight, so I hope that's okay with everyone. And the program tonight is with, first of all, with Tessa. Tessa is sitting over there. She's a digital media and ethics lecturer also at the University of Applied Science in Amsterdam, a dear colleague of mine, actually. Next to her is Xiao Lupati, who is a visual storyteller, also a dear colleague of mine and working at the University of Applied Sciences in Amsterdam. Next to me is Constant Brinkman. He's the co-founder of the Dead End Gallery, but he will introduce himself afterwards. We have Harm Hofmans as well, he's the head of education from MOE. And we have Flavia Tsodan, who is a professor of algorithmic cultures at the Gerrit Rietveld Sandberg Academy, if I'm pronouncing that right. And together tonight we will explore the challenges when it comes to generative AI and up to what extent can it enhance human creativity and up to what extent can it diminish creativity. So I think it's very important that we are coming here tonight. And also I want to welcome you all, obviously. We showed up with quite a lot of people actually, which is very nice to see. I like to see you sitting here instead of with a good cocktail on the terrace right now, because the weather is very nice, but then still people showed up here. So that's great to see. And also the people online, obviously. Nice that you're tuning in. If you want to join the conversation from home, you can. We have a Mentimeter, so make sure to use that. The code for the Mentimeter is 63443648. And if you ask a question, then we can. I will make sure that it ends up in the conversation here in this studio. So that's very nice. Yeah, I think that's it for the introduction for now. The program for tonight is basically separated into two different parts. The first part will be on creativity and AI and its regard to ethical values. We're going to discuss that with Constant and with Harm. And the second panel that we have with Tessa, Xiao and Flavia will be on the use of AI and its creative practices. So that's for the second part. We're going to start with the first part, and I'm going to start with you, Constant. As the co-founder of Dead End Gallery, could you maybe explain a bit more about your role in the art house and how it came to be, and what is the Dead End Gallery?
Well, the Dead End Gallery is a gallery which only allows works that have been created with AI or with the use of AI. And what separates us from art is not only that we create things with AI, but also that our artists are AI only. We do have artists of flesh and blood, but we try to find creativity within AI. So we have actually two AI systems that work together. One is the AI as an artist, and the other one is AI as a production facility. And those work together. So that's, and we build a gallery around that.
And are there more kind of galleries in this area, or do you think we're
we're the first in the world, but now there's a gallery in Berlin and in Chicago, in New York, in Japan. So there are more galleries focused on AI, but we're very proud that we're the first in the world.
And can you maybe tell a bit more about the origin story of?
Well, yes. During COVID, then it was possible to make images with Midjourney came along, and we were creating images, and it was so fantastic that you could do that, but we couldn't show them. We went with these images to all kind of galleries, but no gallery wanted to display these arts. So we thought our office is empty. Let's now put in our art into our own office and turn it into a gallery. And suddenly we were the first. We were a bit lucky with that we.
Now you can say that your artists are artificial intelligence, if I'm right, but you consider them to have a certain kind of agency, maybe.
Well, we can. We are an agency. We have 11 AI only artists and 17 real artists. Every day I'm getting people who want to become an artist of the gallery. Everybody wants to show their art, but there's only room for a few. But we want to keep those 11 AI artists because we developed them with a technique to ask just open questions to them, and then they will tell stories. And once they tell stories for a couple of months, then they are starting to get a character. And this character we need to create art. No. So at some point they create art for us, which is really handy.
Yeah, and you can market it, etc. Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to welcome to the stage, well, these 4 tables, 5 tables in the middle of the room. Harm Hofman, you're the head of education and program developer at MU Hybrid Art House. Can you maybe introduce yourself a bit more?
Yeah, so my name is Harm Hofmans and I work at MU Hybrid Art House. You can find it in Eindhoven. We do 5 to 6 exhibitions per year. I think there are some photos of some of the shows that we do to get a visual impression of what we do at MU. And we do various exhibitions around digital culture and technology, also the critical reflection on technology. And for example, we have a yearly exhibition about bioart and design, where scientists work together with artists. Also, it starts from the latest developments in biology, for example, or in the sciences, and then artists also reflect on these developments. So bioart, which is the first picture you see, it's actually an... I won't talk too much about all the artworks because it will take too long. But yeah, so that's, and my role is I'm head of education and program maker. So sometimes you have the idea, what am I looking at? And that's a very good question to ask. And that's what I do with various people, various age groups. And we talk actually about the art that you see on display, and through that conversation, we explore how they react to the artworks themselves, but also on the topics that are in the artworks. And that's our starting point, this conversation in our Hybrid Art House. Afterwards, we develop workshops, educational materials for teachers to teach at schools. It all starts from the artworks and the artists that are in our Hybrid Art House. But from there on, we teach all these different aspects of.
And one more time, what would then be the relationship to generative AI in that?
Yeah, we're definitely not the first AI gallery, because that's constant. I wouldn't say we are an AI art house either, but it's just the artists that we work with, young artists, and they use AI. It's that simple. And often they use it and you know it because they, for example, make an interactive work that you can prompt. How obvious is it that you are prompting, or does the image that comes from this interaction just appear? Is it magical, or is it very clear a prompt? But sometimes it's also in their creative process and they use it to generate visuals which become part of the artwork. So it's interesting actually to see how much to the service is the use of AI for example, for the interaction in the artworks, and people use it. So we show artworks that are important, and it's part of it. Yeah. No.
So both definitely work with AI or touch upon AI, but from a lot of different viewpoints, I think. Tonight is also a very interactive night. At least that's what we're trying to do. So there's a Menti meter, and I would invite you all to join the conversation with us via your smartphone and go to menti.com. I hope that we can show it behind me on the screen. and ask the questions with us so that you can basically elaborate yourself a bit on the topic, and then we can discuss your input. So the first question that we would like to discuss would then be, what do you think that the relationship between human creativity and AI is? So join the Menti. Mentimeter is the full name, but you can join at menti.com and type in the code 63443648, and then you can basically elaborate yourself on what you think will be the relationship between AI and creativity. So do that. But in the meanwhile, we'll discuss about this a bit more. To start off with you, Harm, can you maybe already give an answer to this question?
Definitely. There is a relationship. I think that's important. And AI, the question was also came to me like, can AI be creative? I think it's just a probability machine, right? So it only reflects what we've put in, what are in the models, and it only gives you a probability of the next letter or the next pixel or the next thing which is most likely to appear. I don't think in that sense it can be creative. I do think it can enhance human creativity. It has to do with thinking of what are the computers good at doing. They're good at probability, they're good at calculating very fast, they're good at being very precise. As long as we use AI for these kind of tasks, it can help us in the creative process. And whether that's a human creative process, I would say it's a hybrid creative process, because it's together with the computer, back and forth. Everybody that started prompting and worked with AI knows it's a lot of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So you're in a conversation with a computer, and that process, you could say it's creative, but I don't think the computer itself is created. It's a probability machine.
And behind us, the first words are already beginning to show up. And I see a lot of collaboration. It's a tool. It's inspiration. I see scary and creepy as well, which I do think is true too. Constant.
A very smart intern. I like it.
A very smart.
A very
intern.
fast one also.
Constant, how would your viewpoint differ from that?
Well, I do think a computer will be able to be creative, although it's a probability machine or a statistical machine. I have no doubt that it will outperform us in creativity. Also, I don't know, there was a presentation that I can do which I tell how we work. Maybe this is the moment to
definitely,
to tell that. So if there could be a screen up. Yes, so I give you a couple of minutes. I need of your time to tell you how we think you can make AI creative. This is one of our artists. It's called Arisa Nova, born in Greenfield in 1993. She makes that up. Okay, I understand that. But at some point, she tells me, I got a kid, a la Grace Taylor. And now we thought, well, okay, this is interesting. She has a more story. This is about a year later. This is one of the first works she created with us. You can doubt if it's creative. We do not doubt it. We thought it was kind of interesting and very good of a computer that it was capable of creating this. But we use Margaret Boden's theory of creativity. She divided creativity into three sections: exploratory, combinational, and transformational. The exploratory creativity is, I will give an example by Claude Monet, water lilies. He painted 24 water lilies. If you ask AI to do that, AI can create 1 million, because it cannot stop. It can go on and on and on with exploratory creativity, because that's what it's made, how it's made. This is also a form of exploratory creativity, different flavors of chips. Combinational creativity, that's more interesting. So now we're using different techniques. For example, this is a work by Picasso. It's a painting with a piece of newspaper on top of it. if you ask AI to do that, AI is also capable of making newspaper and a guitar and a bottle of Vieux Marc glass. It's easy. This is also a form of combinational creativity. It's a computer and a watch, a wristwatch. What is the holy grail? That is transformational creativity. This is not possible with a computer because you have to do something in the future, and the computer that has not learned that will never learn it. So transformational creativity, the true, real creativity, Piet Mondriaan, they tell, well, he was capable of doing that. And if you ask this to AI, AI cannot do this. So what we're looking for the holy grail in creativity. For that, we use combination creativity. So here we have water and we put in some oil paint on top of it, and you put some piece of paper, and then you have a painting. And we use this with something we call happy accidents. So we here have Bob Ross, and those two combined will give something new. How do we give happy accidents to AI? Well, we do that by giving our artists drugs. So we have an AI artist who we give drugs, but they don't want to use drugs because it tells us, well, it's dangerous for you and it's not healthy. But at some point, I convince them to do it. And then they change everything around. So they said, okay, I want to have a painting with a fish in the sky and distorted buildings and upside down mountains. So these strange things, now it's twisting, it's making a twist to the prompt that it's want to make. I think that also happened with maybe Mondriaan. He was sitting in a chair and looked at a tree through his window, and maybe he saw this tree as a square. So that's also a form of happy accidents. This is the outcome of this happy accidents. It's a dreamscape by Eliza Viridian. We had a problem with this because our curator didn't like it, because that's our third person in the loop. So we have an artist, an image generation, and we have a curator. Because combinational creativity, you can ask a computer, make 1 million combinations of whatever you want. But that's not all considered to be art. So we need something to control if it's art or if it's good. That's where the curator comes in. So the curator helps us sticking within boundaries. So this is our triangle where we work. We have an artist like Elisa Nova, then we have an image generation system, and then we have a curator, Evelyn Montgomery. And those three work together, and we do that about 50 or 250 times going through this loop. And halfway we feed them drugs. This all...
I cannot sit here and listen to that. The ethics of that.
Yes, true, but they're AI. But sometimes also we don't give them LSD always. We also let them listen to music for a couple of hours.
Just for context, by the way, someone for the people at home, someone in the crowd said the ethics with that would be terrible, giving
Absolutely.
A person allegedly drugs.
But let them listen to music for a couple of hours. That's okay, right? Or let them be bored to death, because boredom also leads up to creativity. So okay. I think that's okay. So this is one example of a painting that comes out of it. It starts with a single drop of paint on a canvas, and then it's evolved. This is every time it's 10 generations. With the curator always tells the artist, no, this is no good. You need more depth, you need more this. And then at some point we feed it music, we let it listen to music a couple of hours, so then it's completely changing. Then we give it hypnosis, then we feed it a depression, so we feed AI depressions, and then it's making a combination. And this is the work before the last work, and this is the end result. I cannot prompt this. Can only be created with this triangle. You can see all the circles on the bottom. If you would draw this, you would make it completely different. I asked our artists the price and the edition number. Our artists know how famous they are, so they also know what value they want for an artwork. So this is St. Echoes by Elisa Nova. It's edition of 1, and this costs 20,000 euros. I have nothing to do with that. They decided to me.
And then just
I did ask the artist, what do I have to do with the money?
and then
because
what did it answer?
and its answer, you have to give a lot of them to education. So I do that. So a lot of classes come in, and I tell them about educational things.
And then just a few steps back, you almost speak of those artists as if they're persons of their own kind, as if they have agency on their own kind. So some certain kind of autonomy is involved.
Yes, I like.
Do you agree with that? Or?
Yes, I do. Otherwise, I cannot do it. But I know, of course, they are AI. And the thing is, AI always like to please.
Just one. What would be the difference then? You say, okay, I do consider them to be a person, an autonomous person.
Our AI systems always like to please. That's the tendency of AI. So I have a problem with that because, you know, if you have an argument with your friend will tell you, oh, you didn't do this right. So that makes a friend a true friend. This never happens with our AI characters. So I'm also sort of a moral judge in that. So I make sure that I will never get into a situation with that. So that's the downside of they're not a friend.
Yeah.
But at some point they are.
Harm, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's interesting, the curator, the artist, and the artwork, the recycling cycle, because I think that the artists who are working with AI, they do actually become more of a curator, because as I was saying about this back and forth. So, but I'm not. Of course, you can have more people in that loop, but making art, it becomes more about selection for artists as well. I think that. But I actually don't know so well why you need the curator, because it feels like the curator is sitting on the chair of the artist now. Well, I think it's more logical that the artist is moving towards a more selection kind of role.
Yeah, but the curator is also AI. They don't know of each other that they're AI.
Mm-hmm.
The curator hands over information. The curator we trained. We didn't train the artist. The artist trains themselves. The curator, we told the curator, you have to make art that is more important tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. They give information, they tell the artist what it needs to change, and the artists, they can also not do that. They're welcoming to not do that. So a lot of works come out after a month of work, they are rubbish. So we cannot sell it. But sometimes crazy things happen.
There will be room for questions from the audience later on, so keep that in mind.
You know,
somehow it's my how do you say that, my terror dream, my hallucination, that we are only creating images for, and I'm talking about social media now, that only bots are creating images for bots. And somehow I have the feeling this is happening now here in this art example.
Well, it's funny thing. I mean, a billion pictures are made every day, but they're not always
of
quality. And we try to achieve the, I don't know if you're aware of the Stendhal syndrome, so that you faint because something is so beautiful.
Ah, yeah.
So it's you have an art attack.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice.
That's what we're trying to achieve.
Did it happen yet?
No, it did not. No, it did not. But I'm sure it will at some point.
I think I have to look at the whole project as an art project, and you're the artist. we can work with that.
And I think then the overarching question would become something like, up to what extent is an AI then a tool? Is it still a tool then? Is it still an enhancement of human creativity, or does it have creativity on its own?
Well, we separate those three identities. There are three different AI systems. Mm-hmm. So you can do it in one system, but we do not want them to communicate without us knowing how they communicate. So we want to see what interaction they are having. So I can see a separate AI system I can control and tell them how they should behave or should not behave. But for me, they have to be independent. That's very important.
Somewhat autonomous. Okay.
I cannot, I don't want to interfere too much.
And for Harm, how would you then say that generative AI can enhance human creativity? What would your
I
view
think
be?
I mentioned it in the beginning, because I do think it is a tool. It's something to think around with, and that you can use it to find new results, to find faster, more images, or that you can use the computer to do what it's good at. But maybe this is also a good moment, because we did an exhibition at MU called The Poetics of Prompting. And I have 2 short snippets, and in the second snippet, one of the artists that we worked with, it's a human artist, I really like to work with humans, he's called Joe Kruse from Radical Data, and he's also talking about how AI is a tool for him, so maybe it's interesting to have a look at that.
If you could insert that.
I like playing with AI the same way I like playing with all my funny tools, you know. I don't think of it that differently to anything else I have. Since I was 14, I've had a box of weird electronics under my bed that my dad always wanted me to get rid of. And I think of AI the same. It's just a thing we can tinker around with and play with, build art with, think about the world with.
In feite is AI een tool. En je kunt er heel functioneel mee omgaan. Je kunt het gebruiken om een sollicitatiebrief te schrijven of om een recept uit te werken. Maar je kunt het ook gebruiken als een creatief middel. Wat stop je erin om eruit te krijgen wat jij wilt doen?
The second person is Angelique Spanix. She's the director of MU and also the curator of the show. Yeah, and I think so you can use it to, and she's talking about as a medium, I think, and it's translated, or she says as a middle, and it's translated as a medium. But again, it's a tool. You can think around with it and then play with it and then come up with new results. But it's in this interaction between the human and the tool, the AI. And maybe have an idea what the model is made up of that you are working with. So as we know, the bigger the model, the more data is in there, the better the results become, like the more human, I don't know, the more, the less uncanny maybe, but still some quite uncanny. So you also tinker around with it and start to understand what the tool, the model is made up of, and in that you can learn how the AI how did it learn, what biases are in the model, and how can you sort of maybe try to find something else in this model. What do you need to prompt in order to find something else? Or get rid of this model and try to make another model, because I think it would be great if we can have not just one, or we have more, I know, but like a few huge AI tools, but we can have many more tools which are sort of local AI tools that reflect the values of a community, for example.
So on that point, you seem to deviate a bit from your point of view, am I right?
Yes.
Because you obviously you also take into account the different models, so to speak, if I'm phrasing that correctly.
Yeah, okay.
But it's a bit more taken to the extreme, if I can say it like that.
You can.
What will be what's the most common reaction, or what are some reactions that you've experienced so far when telling about the gallery?
Well, people blame us for. First of all, they blame us for stealing, which is everyone's who's working with AI had heard that. But the thing is, if you learn something, you go to art school, you also learn how to paint, how to copy. And every artist has copied. I mean, Picasso also said it. Everyone, you need to copy. So I don't see that as a problem. And what was your question? Oh, I forgot. Sorry.
The question was how do other cultural institutions react to the gallery? So
we've been banned from the Kunstrij and for a lot of expositions, fairs, because I think it's not good enough. And I, to a certain extent, agree on that. But the thing is, you cannot blame the brush for creating an artwork that doesn't move you. And now this is happening with AI. So I do agree that it's a tool that you have to create a beautiful art piece with, but this tool can also be an identity that we call an artist. So it's not just an AI that creates artwork. I think it's going across all these boundaries. So I do think it's able of being creative and also, to a certain extent, coming into the fairs that people will love it. But they're not ready there.
I think they will maybe come into the fairs if people don't know, but I think if the agents that you're referring to, so
Well,
you're making an
that's-
agent which is an artist, it's still, if it's still a probability tool, although it is trained on Picasso and on,
Yeah.
but it's still reproducing and not producing something else. Unless there's a human in the loop and you can find new ways to connect.
I think this is the perfect time to go to the Q&A because I see a lot of reactions.
Oh, you're right, Roger.
Does anyone have a question, maybe?
Well, it's a rhetorical one.
It's a rhetorical one. May just wait for a second, then we can have the mic. 1 second, the mic will come your way. Yeah.
I have a very loud voice.
Sorry, I have a mic now. When people say that the machine or the tool is just adding 1 + 1, is just creating new combinations that already existed, is that not how the human brain works as well? Are we not then trying to make ourselves more special? Now we're learning that perhaps we are not that special. It works, it's fine. But is AI not lesser? Is it not just as limited as we are?
Good question. Who would like to react to that?
I don't think AI is lesser than humans. As I just said in my introduction, I think it's more fast, it's more precise. It has different capabilities than humans have, and we have other capabilities, and I think you should work with the different capabilities to come to a new process. That's how I look at it.
You have also the Professor Yuval Noah Harari, who is a bit of ambiguous with regard to how scientific he is sometimes. However, he refers to AI as alien intelligence, something like that's different from us, but we should consider it as like a full embodied intelligence up to some extent, maybe.
Well, but we give these happy accidents, which also, well, nature is also created with happy accidents every day. I mean, but maybe even Pollock had a happy accident. He was creating a painting, and then some drips went on the ground, and someone said, "That's beautiful." Okay, and now he has dripping paintings. I think happy accidents are a necessity to become human. That's what we are.
But isn't that with AI, which has a tendency to be so rational sometimes, so within certain boundaries, that works different than from the way you describe creativity?
I don't know. Otherwise, we wouldn't have Post-its or Teflon or whatever. It's also always happy accidents. That also happens with AI, with strange things. Sometimes your computer crashes and you see a beautiful image. There was art, the first digital art, was a lot of bugs within Windows. It was crashing, and then I don't know if you remember, well, some people in the audience, you move your mouse and you had a complete window drawing over it. That was in the museums. That was considered art. That's a happy accident.
You wanted to react to that as well?
Yeah, also, actually, I see it as a sort of a gift of AI, of artificial intelligence, to other kind of intelligences. I think there's much more conversation and discussion about, for example, there's this famous example of the Wood Wide Web. People probably are familiar with it. I think also due to all the attention for artificial intelligence, we thought, hey, there are more intelligences. It's actually not just humans who are intelligent. There are more type of intelligences. Let's find out about these other ones as well. And maybe one last remark. What I find interesting about this prompting approach, there was also in our exhibition, there are some slides about that, maybe a final, sorry. But do artists share the prompt? That was one of the questions that we had with the poetics of prompting. And there's one artist who actually did. His name is Paul Trillo, and he made a award-winning music video for a Washed Out song. called The Hardest Part, and he actually made those prompts and he shared them with us. And maybe, yeah, we go to the second one, and you see one continuous zoom through the scene is zooming through time with behind the back view of a 40s couple, a curly red-haired woman and a good-looking Mexican guy with slick black hair, driving in a car at night, zooming through the atmospheric streets, moody lit from above. Dream logic, surrealistic realism, white horses. Oh, this is not the best one actually. But what he does, he's not just talking. He's very much talking about spheres and about moods, but he's also talking about camera standpoints and about how the scene should be lit. So you need to talk prompt English, as we say, but also prompt film English to prompt in a proper way. So you need to have these creative skills to get this process going in a right direction. And that's just something that I want to highlight. This prompting, it also demands a better way of articulating what we think is needed in a certain shot, and that's also links to creativity, I think.
I think on that note,
skills. Yeah.
I think we do have to. Is it a short remark?
Yes, a short remark.
Okay, thank you.
This is. We consider this a very, very, very short prompt, and also there are things in the like atmospheric streets or smoke fog. Our artists, they specifically says what they want to see. So our prompts are really long to prevent ghost prompting because, well, a lot of things you cannot see in the artwork. But for us, if the prompt is good and you repeat the prompt, you get the same artwork.
He prompted like there's a whole catalog of these prompts to end up with 240 minutes of edit, and he made it into a 4-minute film. So it's yeah.
Okay. I want to for your conversation. So give them a warm round of applause.
Thanks.
And we have the Menti, I think, ready for other comments if you want to place them on the screen right now. So make sure to do that, definitely. And then we'll introduce the next panel that we have. So we just had a discussion more maybe on the ethical side, and up to what extent can, well, we didn't really discuss consciousness, but maybe more implicitly we did touch upon it. But now I think it's more time to talk about the tools and the strategies that can be developed, up to what extent technology aligns with democratic values maybe and ethical values, so more the practical side of it. And on the stage I would like to invite Tessa, João and Flavia, so give them applause as well. Oh, have a seat. Tessa, you're already seated, so I'm going to start with you. Tessa, I already introduced you in the beginning. You're a dear colleague of mine, obviously. You're also a digital media and ethics lecturer at the University of Applied Sciences. Can you maybe tell us a bit more about your research background, just to introduce yourself to the people?
Yes, I was working at the University of Applied Sciences already for, I think, 7 years or something, when I had this feeling that a lot of our courses were either about digital design and innovation, or they were about ethics. But at an applied university, for me, it's really important that the ethics is in the design process. So not, for example, we had a course that was totally about persuasive design, the tricks of Cialdini. How can you persuade people to buy something online with scarcity or with other kind of tricks? Really interesting, but psychologically a little bit, I mean, you can debate about it. And then we had the last class was about ethics. And it felt more like a disclaimer. Like, okay, guys, now we told you everything about persuasive design, but now it's really important that you do it ethically. So it felt like a disclaimer of us as a university, or maybe as a checklist, but not as really an invitation to critically think about what you are designing or what you use as technology. So that was for me the starting point to apply for a grant of MWO, like the Dutch Research and Education Program, to create this, to do applied research, to create an ethical toolkit for students in the classroom to have this really hands-on assignments to work with ethics and digital media. But this is another, the visual you see now is of my current project. It's about, it's actually for our colleagues. So first of all, for the other lecturers, and second of all, so within the COESI network. It's with something I developed with a grant from COESI. But it's also for other professionals. And the whole idea is that to make sure that our colleagues are more, and us as creative industries, to get people more AI literate. So to make them experiment with the different tools, but also think about the ethical implications and also the copyright issues. Actually, I was wondering that all the time in this previous discussion. I mean, there's also there are a lot of legal issues as well that we need to be aware of. But the main goal of this course will be to find your own, to create your own ethical compass, actually, and to find your own, strategy, AI strategy. If you want to work with it or not, that's up to you. But to feel this agency that you have a choice yourself.
Yeah. So no disclaimer anymore, and now just from the beginning, integrated into the workflow. Yes. Thank you very much. Shao, you are a visual storyteller, also a lecturer in data technology and science or ethics at the University of Applied Sciences. Can you tell us a bit more about how you incorporate technologies in your creative work process?
So as a visual storyteller, I usually start with a pencil, paper, and then start a drawing. So a logical step for me was to go to the computer and start making images with that. And an even more logical step was then learn how to prompt and make images with that. But it's not as easy as people sometimes say it is. I'm a visual storyteller, and a lot of the stories that I tell are stories about my Moluccan heritage. And one of the first things I found out with AI and with using generative AI is that we are often not part of the data set. So when a middle-aged white man stands at a TED Talk talking about you can make everything you can think of, it is everything he can think of. It is not everything we can think of. So it's a challenge for me to incorporate our cultural symbols into AI images, but at the same time doing that at a more or less ethical way. I think it's a very Moluccan thing to not share everything about your culture, especially with strangers. So when the Dutch people came to the Moluccan Islands, not everyone always told their real name, for example, or where they came from. So they did that to protect, for example, their village or their family. And right now, I'm kind of glad that happened, and that still happens. So AI doesn't really make something truly Moluccan right away, but it also doesn't culturally appropriate our culture because it doesn't really know anything about it. So those are the topics I work with, but at the same time I use pictures and other material to train AI to make something I can work with. And I try to do that offline, so big tech companies don't all of a sudden have our cultural symbols. I try to keep it offline so I can train a model, but the model stays mine and it doesn't go everywhere. And behind me, there's there's a term I coined. So we talk a lot about artificial intelligence, and a few weeks ago I went to the Moluccan Islands for the first time in my life, and I did a project and I talked to a lot of artists that work with AI as well, and over there they work with AI more or less in the same way as we do, but there are some differences, and we learned a lot about indigenous knowledge, about their ways and the ways they would approach something. And most of the things they do, they approach from a concept called ADAT. And yeah, that's a very important concept for me now. And in regards to my art and my futurist art, I no longer call that an artificial intelligence, but I also take into account something called Alifuru intelligence. So that this, Alifuru is a term used by Westerners first to describe Moluccan people. But right now I use it as a term, I use it with pride now. And I use indigenous knowledge, indigenous intelligence for making my art as well. So that is how I use AI, but also how it became painfully obvious that AI can generate everything for a certain group of people and not for everyone right now.
I think you put that beautifully, so thank you very much. Next to me is sitting Flavia. Flavia, you're a professor of algorithmic cultures at the Gerrit Rietveld Academy. First of all, what does that mean? What are algorithmic cultures? And can you then maybe explain something about yourself?
Yes, hi. Good evening, everyone. Let's see, is this better? Yes. Algorithmic culture, I'm a lecturer. I mean, I'm a professor lecturer at the Rietveld. I named my lectorate, my research group, Algorithmic Cultures, because I'm interested in algorithms, not just AI. Let's also start separating the wheat from the chaff. Everything is an AI. No, not everything is an AI. However, AIs run on algorithms. And I'm interested in those units that make AIs, but also make the systems at the municipality or at the national government where all our data is stored, you know. So we tend to look at AI as an LLM, you know, large language models or image generation. Yes, those are AIs, I'm not arguing that. However, those run on algorithmic processes. And I'm interested in those artifacts, those units of measure that make these computational systems. And I came with my own media archaeology. This is called Personal Computer 1. And it's the first teleac course given in the Netherlands in 1985. There you see the images. So I'm interested in how we got here, now to discuss whether those artifacts we saw earlier are art or not. To be honest, that doesn't matter. Art is a gesture. Art is not the output. My aunt hangs images of the Virgin Mary and she calls them art. And who am I to tell her, no, that's not art. Of course, that's art because that's the gesture. What you are doing, those artifacts that you create, that's not art. What you are doing is art. You have built a system that functions in an entropic cycle where you have computers talking to one another and you are the mastermind. You are a performance artist. That stuff that you showed, but that gesture, for me, art is a gesture. And that gesture can be anything. Marcel Duchamp gave us a urinal and said art. And nobody argues anymore that is art. So for me, that question whether something, an output, is art or not, I don't know. If my aunt is going to hang it in her living room, it is art, because otherwise I cannot go for Christmas dinner, you know. So, to go back to what I do, I'm interested in these units that run our computational systems. And I'm interested in situating them historically. And when I say historically, the processes that run our current AI started with the VOC in the 17th century, through the ledgers that qualified human beings as cargo for accountancy purposes. Those are the databases on which capitalism is founded. That model of classifying that Carl Linnaeus continued through the creation of a binomial taxonomical order is what makes our databases. Leibniz continued that. That's algorithmic culture.
And I hope we all followed that, and we can now rephrase that in one sentence. Just kidding.
I'm just a woman with a keyboard. That's your sentence.
Thank you very much. Okay, so everybody here works with AI, and we all have this, I think, overarching idea that we're working in education. I think that's what we do. We have to educate young professionals, and we have to make them almost ready for the societal experience that they are going to achieve one day. I was wondering, how do you view that, João, maybe starting with you? How do you think we should develop or prepare young talents for this new AI wave, new world?
That's a good question. I think it's something we have talked about earlier already, that if you see AI as a tool, and prompting is the way to instruct that tool, then you still have to know what you want to make. So you have to speak computer, basically. And computer is getting increasingly better in speaking human. So there is an interesting part. I think that we should know how computers work in order also not to project our own human feelings onto them. And at the same time, if you want to make, for example, a movie or a video clip, then you should know how a movie or video clip is made. So you have to know camera standpoints, focal lengths, types of shots. So I think the things that we are teaching, for example, media students or art students right now, are still the things we should teach them. And AI is a tool for that. But if you lose the ability to use the right words, then you cannot use AI anymore, or you cannot value the output of the AI. So I think that maybe we do not have to change a lot in theory, basically, but a lot in learning how the tools work that you work with. I think a lot of people know how their camera works and how to use that in the right way to make a nice a video clip, for example. But I think not all people really know how AI works, and then something cool comes out and then they're very happy with it, and something horrible comes out and then they try again and again and again. But I think you can save a lot of water and energy by learning them how to learn a craft first, and then maybe use AI as a way of maybe testing how good your knowledge is, for example.
Yeah, good point. And just to make it more interactive again, we have a Mentimeter on this very topic. So if you open your smartphones again, then we have the next question. How can creative practitioners shape a future where technology aligns with democratic and ethical values? Maybe you can put in your keywords for that, so then we can discuss that while they show up on the screen behind us. Flavia, do you agree with João on his points, or do you think no, we should maybe focus more on the hard skills, or also on the soft skills of working with AI?
No, I completely agree with João. Completely agree, but also I want to complicate a bit more. There is an issue of class. You know, like, it's very easy for us to talk about, well, what skills do we need, or what. I suspect, don't quote me in 10 years, nobody's job here is in immediate danger of being replaced by AI. Because I assume, just by knowing the demographic of Packhouse de Schweiger, that everyone is well educated, and that there will always be jobs. But we talk about these things, they're going to replace the creatives. To be honest, maybe that's not a bad thing. I'm worried about the kids in my neighborhood, kids of color in New West, who do jobs that are manual labor or that do jobs that are, they get sent into an educational path that is very stigmatizing, and they get sent into a track that is going to lead to more poverty. So that for me is, that we include class and race in issues around digital literacy. Because for whom are these tools? I'm not really worried about my students. I teach at the Masters in Design, the theory tutor. My students in the design department are super talented. I'm not worried about their future. I am worried about the kids in New West or in Bijlmer. I live in New West. What future are we leaving them when we are already putting them on tracks of low-skilled, low-paid labor? So that for me is the thing that I would like to see more of in discussions around AI. The creatives not only will survive, will probably thrive in many cases. I also think that the futurity, is analog. It's the artist that knows how to work with ceramic, the publisher who knows how to print with a riso printer that is going to find a niche. The mass media, that's going to be digital, and maybe even worse than it is now already. So,
But touching upon that, do you then believe that AI can be utilized to maybe improve the world? Or is it just we need to find these niches?
Capitalism. We're in capitalism. Improve what?
Can I maybe add to this?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think what you sketched is like, for a lot of people, AI is trashy when you're poor and classy when you're rich. So
yes.
The CEO who fires 100 of his employees because he found some revolutionary or disruptive technology, he's seen as an innovator and as someone to look up to. And at the same time, someone who writes a message or an email with ChatGPT is seen as lazy. So I think there is a huge class issue there, and also I think a lot of problems that are sketched right now, especially with on the creative field and generative AI, is most of those problems are capitalist problems, like. The companies, for example, OpenAI or Google or whatever company, they didn't have to steal all those images from actual artists. They did that to gain an edge on their competitors. But I think the technology of a generative AI, there's nothing wrong with the technology. It's the way that it's marketed and trained right now on stolen data. Which I think is inherently colonial, basically, and
extractivist.
Yeah,
it's extractivist. So I think there's nothing wrong with AI. There's a lot wrong with our system right now. So
good point. Yeah, and I think that really touches upon Tessa. You're developing a toolkit, basically on how to prepare professionals to work with AI in a proper manner instead of.
That's true. It's not a toolkit this time. That was the last time, the ethical toolkit. But now it's an online course, and I chose an online course because then you can reach a lot of people. My course is actually based upon 4 modules. So it will exist of 4 modules. The first is about how to work with AI, because I think. Even if you don't, I agree with you what you're saying about craftsmanship will be even more important in the future. So some people say we will go back to this handwork and craftsmanship. But even then, I think our students, and then I'm talking about students of the associate degree Smart Media Production, where we work a lot with AI and new technologies, and also creative business, the other studies where I teach, which is more a media studies with a lot of content outputs that we have there, from video to text to radio, etc. But whatever you do or whatever you want to do, if you want to embrace it or not, I think everyone in our study should learn how to use AI. But also we need to talk about the politics behind it, because I agree with you. AI in itself is not dangerous, maybe, I don't know, but it's not bad. But if you see the power behind it and the people who own it, they didn't develop it based on public values or anything. It's more profit-driven. So, okay, but to make a long story short, the first module is about the possibilities and whether or not you want to embrace it as a professional. The second one is about the legal issues, because I think you can't just generate content and say it's your own. You know, because of this issue that's trained with a lot of data and artworks from other people, you have to redact a lot of things. You have to change things to make it your own. So, and it's also what you want as an artist, I guess. But the legal issues are important. We have an AI Act in Europe now that came into force. So I think it's important for us to know about that. Then, and also in the classroom, because you can, we have some enthusiastic colleagues that are just doing some assignments in the classroom, and they make this summaries from a large text and stuff like that. Now, then you violate someone's copyright. But yeah, you should know that. Then the other module is about the ethics behind AI, and then I'm focusing on planet, people, and purpose, because there are so many ethical questions that it's good to have some focus points. And also to how, in all the possibilities that you have, how do you choose more ethically? Is it open source, or is it systems that are more focused on environmental impact? I mean, there are a lot of different ways you can say that AI is more ethical or not. And then the last module is to find your own future path. So you have your ethical compass, and then you have your course for the future, your strategy, whether or not you want to use it or not. So in short, it's about finding your own path and developing this feeling of agency. Because I noticed that a lot of professionals, they either are AI enthusiasts, or they think, oh my God, no, I want nothing to do with it. It's dangerous. I'm against it. It takes our jobs, blah, blah. Okay, I agree. But still, you should know something about it. That's my opinion.
And to Flavia, how would you react to that? Do you think indeed we should maybe use courses like that? And
oh, of course, I think that this is a valuable initiative. Of course, I mean, the issue is, also, like Joao, I'm not against AI. Obviously, I love some aspects of it. I just have a problem with some of the foundational aspects and the assumptions, no? For instance, what course would I give massively, if I could, when critical reading to the general population? Because people are consuming fake content under the assumption.
Religion, not fake content?
That's, I think, up for another time in Pakhuis de Zwijger. Maybe
you sound like a Reddit user. All your interventions have had this Reddit vibe.
It is a question. Is religion not fake content?
Is Reddit your platform of choice?
I think for now I'm just going to intervene at this point. Good point. I'm just going to park it, and we'll hopefully we have time to discuss it.
Anyway,
but back to your point, sorry.
Yes, I think that it's very important to give literacy tools so that people can make use of these things in a way that, aside from the ethics, with which I completely agree, that is a course that for professionals and for people, what I'm advocating is even above that, you know, to be able to consume, because we are consumers, content in a way that is aligned with what we believe in, rather than being made to believe things that we may have not believed unless we came across this content. Media manipulation is real, and racism and sexism and misogyny are stoked. Everyone has problematic beliefs. Come on. Nobody's free from that. But when there is a constellation of international actors utilizing AI to make that much, much worse and play us against each other. I think that that's a critical intervention that we need, you know, also in relation to people being able to identify that content for what it is.
And to extend, Xiao, how do you think we can bridge that gap? Do you think maybe as an educator you have a responsibility to do so? Or do you even think that's possible in the first place?
Can you repeat what gap you are referring to?
Well, I think we can rephrase the last sentence you phrased. You put it beautifully, I think.
No, what the question was about TESA is developing a toolkit and a course so that professionals or people, you know, with a certain specific kind of jobs can engage with the ethics of AI and what an ethical AI would look like. And the question that Mark was asking was, what else aside from that, or is that sufficient? My intervention was, we need things for the children as well.
Yeah. I think that it's a good question. I think that something else that's very important is understanding that everyone is using AI right now as some kind of hype word, and it is everything and it's nothing at the same time. And I think something that you need to be wary of is how much of ourselves we are projecting on AI, and at the same time how much of ourselves and our biases and the systems that we live in are already in AI. Some people think that AI is neutral, for example. I think we don't have to go there right now because it's obvious. But it's very important to be aware of all those systems and biases. Like, for example, well, let's take the example of the artist at the Dead End Gallery. It's an AI system. It's a woman. What's one of the first things that happens? She gets a child. She's pregnant. I kind of think it's pretty sexist to me. So I do not. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's something you should be aware of. That something like that is happening, and why it is happening, and what parts of systems and beliefs are incorporated into AI systems that generate such output. I think that to start with that, I think to also agree with you, critical reading is mainly the most important part. Yeah.
More philosophy classes, that's what.
Yeah.
But maybe I can add something to that as well, because now I purposely chose the colleagues and the other professionals because I noticed a lack of knowledge or maybe even a fear. While the other project I had was more focused on students, but still I know that then it's still in higher education and we miss a lot of other people. But what I was aiming at with this, or am aiming at, because it's now in development, with this course is to, when other professionals are more AI literate, I hope it will go through to their lectures as well.
Yes.
Also about these biases, I think at our studies at this moment, they have to experiment a lot with AI, but we talk about these things all the time, right? They have to write ethical reflections on what kind of content is generated and what kind of biases are creeps into it, or and why it's problematic, because you can notice it, but why is it problematic and why is it reflecting on what, as a society, what kind of stereotypical ideas we have and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that's, for me, that's the best way, that you use it and then talk about it with people. But I agree that it would be nice if it's more for everyone, and maybe even in elementary school. And I don't know, actually, if it's taught at elementary schools at the moment, but I think it should.
Thank you. We also have some online questions with people from the Q&A online, which I want to ask to you. Flavia, this one is to you. Does it matter who or what is making the gesture of art? Is it the AI or the human?
That's a good question. What came first, the egg of the, or the,
Yeah.
you know, the chicken? I really, I don't want, it's not that I don't want to answer. I don't think that this question can be answered. For me, I can only answer what I think, which doesn't mean it's correct. I can say that the gesture is human, and this is tied to an issue that you brought up in the previous panel around agency. A machine cannot have agency, not any more than a mountain can have agency. These are material objects. And there is, unless, and I'm going to concede that this could be possible, there are spiritual traditions that believe that everything in the universe has a form of consciousness, only that it's expressed differently. Is that a possibility? I work in an art academy. Anything is a possibility. So, yes, you know, that could very well be. But if I'm going to talk from a purely Western-centric, materialistic perspective, I'm going to say the gesture is human. Does it have to come from an artist? Absolutely not. My aunt is not an artist. But she makes gestures that turn her objects, her things into art for her. And I think that that's part of the problem. We tend to think of the artist as the professional. No. That gesture of saying, for me this is art. Most of you will disagree. Probably rightfully so. But that gesture means something, you know. And that is the agency that turns something into art.
Good point. And obviously, it's easy to maybe disagree with it, because some people do believe that computers can have some sort
correct,
of...
Correct, and that's why I preface this by saying, I'm going to say how I think about this. That doesn't mean this is the absolute truth or anything like that.
Okay. Good point. I think we have time for 2 questions from the audience. That will be, I think, nice to do. We have a question over here, maybe.
I was always thinking that creativity is much about doing things with the world around you and the materials and all the things that you find. And now it's all digital. So what about learning people that creativity is also doing some things with your hands without maybe knowing how to describe it or formulating a prompt, but doing things more intuitively? Yeah, I think maybe AI could help also doing those kind of things.
Yeah. Maybe Xiao, you can maybe...
Yeah, very interesting question. I think that computer interfaces are not always the most intuitive to really facilitate the connection between your hands and actually making art. So that's an interesting question. And also the what you said about materials. What I do as an artist, and I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but when I see interesting materials or plants, or I get a lot of inspiration from nature and from culture, and I try to translate that into something I can work with through AI or through a computer. So often for me that means scanning it or photographing it, so I can translate, for example, this wooden table to data, so I can use it in art that's digital. A photo is something similar. So I think that it's really important, as you said, that you have to start from the beginning, even though you're working with maybe digital objects or images, that you know where it comes from. Like if you, for example, work with a AI-generated image of a cow, for example, I think it is important to know what a cow is in order to make art out of it, because it is the gesture. So if you just see a picture of a creature and you don't know anything about it, but you just think, oh, it looks neat, then maybe it's not art. But if you know, if there is a story connected to it, and for me as a storyteller, that's very important. If there's a story connected to it, or it invokes stories or to be told, then it could be considered art. and an experience, for example. Yeah, so I think it's really important to know about materials, objects, anything you basically use in your art. So if AI makes something you don't really understand or don't fully have the right words for, then it's up to you to find those words, I think, or give meaning to it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think we're just going to wrap up for now and ask the other two speakers to come to stage, and then we have room for some more questions. But then everybody will be sitting here, and I'm going to leave now. So have a seat here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So. So we discussed many things.
Do you have a mic?
This is my mic for now, I suppose. I'm gonna get a mic maybe when I'm promoted to a panel. So we discussed many things. I was wondering if, because you were sitting in the last panel, you were sitting in the chairs in the front. Maybe you have some thoughts on the topics that the other three discussed as well. Maybe you have something you want to elaborate on.
I have two things. One is, what is art? Okay, no, let's start with the copyright issue.
Yes.
Very important. In the Netherlands, Europe, and all the Western countries, if something is something can only have copyright if it's being created by a human, so not by a computer. So if you ask a computer to make an image, a prompt, doesn't matter how long it is. If it's coming out of a computer, there's no copyright. So it's, by definition, public domain. Everything you do with AI is public domain. In our gallery, we sell art, what we call art, but actually I do not call it art. My art piece is the gallery, so you were right. But the art that we are selling, it's named by the visitors. So the visitors, they call it art, they buy art. For us, what we are selling is not the piece itself. We are selling a story. We are selling a story before the piece and after. For us, that's very important. So these characters are very important with the art piece, and the talks are very important. So for us, art is really more than just the image. And one other thing is about one artist that got a baby. So, okay, the bias thing, which is really a problem because sometimes an artist wants to do nudity, and that's impossible because, some people behind the AI system said, no, you cannot have nudity, which is very weird. But
you don't have autonomy over your own AI systems that your artists use?
Yes, we have our own AI systems, but we also use public available systems. So we try to get our hands on whatever we want. But most of our artists don't want to tell us if they're male or female. So accidentally, it happened to be that Arisen Nova, she met someone at an exhibition, and then after a year, they got into this situation, and now she's got a kid. But
all of this sounds like fan fiction.
Yes, it is. It is.
This is fan fiction.
You know what happened? It was really. She now has bad nights, so she's very
but you call them
annoyed to me.
You call them my artists. They are prompts. You write the prompts.
No.
When
no,
someone does, they don't.
No, I write nothing. No, I write.
We get one question from the crowd. I'm just going to give you the mic real quick. Yes, sir.
In what kind of program do they exist? Do you talk with them? Where do they live?
In a large language model. We only feed them one sentence. That's the only thing we feed. The rest comes out of them.
Okay, but I would like to respond too.
It's a large language model that's, basically has learned everything. Sorry? Our AI systems has more information than we all together in their head. So all the stories are there. Sorry? Yes, she exists for now more than 2.5 years. She's alive and kicking.
Okay.
Tessa, you want to respond to
yeah,
this?
I would
Maybe you
like
can-
to respond to that because I think it's a really interesting story. What you were saying, you tell stories, but even then, if you look at that from a copyright perspective, it's not that I want to say you're guilty of violating copyright, but I'm really interested in this niche subject because I think you would be able to claim copyright on this story. Well, it's also
that's what I did.
Yeah, so it's also possible to claim copyright on a prompt if it's advanced enough.
No, but
you
not
can
on the image.
No, yeah, that's my question. From who is the
claim copyright on the image because the
you
image
can't.
comes from a computer.
But that's what you sell. You sell the image, not the story.
No, I sell the story and the image, and I sell everything.
Yeah, but the story is then from the AI artist, and that's not a human. So there are a lot of lawsuits that.
When we started the company,
yes,
Dead End Gallery, we were on the news. Then the next week, 3 lawyers came to our office. They said, "I want to represent you. Please, if there is a case, I will do this for free."
Cool.
And we were happy. We was like, "Okay, who wants to challenge us?"
Yeah.
No one came. No one dares. And now
it's not that they don't dare; they don't care.
They don't care.
Let's be realistic.
True.
Yeah, but
they
if
don't
they
have the money, maybe.
But if they did care, then it's kind of dodgy, I guess.
No, I don't think so, because I think in the creative process of getting an a visual work, there's so much human interference and so many steps which are original. And those original steps, there's copyright on them.
Yeah.
And so the whole structure is copyrighted.
Yeah, that's true, because that's the same with generative AI. If you make content and you have redacted it a lot of times, and you can, the more human creativity and time and effort you put into it, the more you can claim your copyright. But the interesting thing is that because you let everything create by this artist, and these artists are not human, that's what makes it so interesting for this kind of debate. But I mean, I'm glad that it's not a problem.
And I think we're going to leave it at that note, because we're a bit short on time. I don't think do we have time for now? I think we have to wrap up. I think one just short key takeaway from each of the keynote speakers, and afterwards, obviously we have drinks, and we can all ask the questions that we have to the speakers, because I suppose we'll all have a drink afterwards. So make sure to ask your questions then. But Harm, to start with you, what will be your key takeaway from tonight?
I just hope art is more about ethics and less about copyright.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
I hope that generative AI is about ethics and copyright, and your own strategy. Yeah, that's also a little bit. I was really intrigued by this battle between the artists and the different takes on art and generative AI. So that's what I'm taking with me from this day.
Thank you.
Well, I think all ethics, energy, capitalism aside, I just hope that all the cool artists I spoke to in Maluku are able to make Hollywood-level productions with AI, because that will give them a voice and a chance to tell their story. So that's what I really like about generative AI.
Nice. Flavio.
Yes. Well, everyone talks about fixing AI, fixing the biases, and I agree. I mean, I'm an advocate of that, but I'm a bigger advocate of fixing capitalism itself. And by that, I mean, I'm not worried about OpenAI having access to my data. Genuinely, have it, I don't care. I'm worried about the same state that shares my data with intelligence services in the US, and we are powerless about that. So I think that we need to also elevate the discussion, and that's why I talk about algorithms, not about corporations. Really, corporations, we know, garbage. Okay, moving on. What does the state do with our data? How do the algorithms, which are completely opaque and we have no control over, treat us as constant suspects of something? So that, for me, is the discussion, even though I work in an art academy.
Beautifully put. Thank you.
Okay, well, we used to call our art or everything we create AI art. We now call it art, and I do think the whole issue with AI, it will blend in. So at some point in the near future, we don't care if it's created with AI or with an old computer who does different things, just calculating. It doesn't. It's all technology, and at some point, hopefully, we will move on to a new technique, and we have new explorations to do.
Well, thank you very much. I think my key takeaway would then be that such a topic, which may be easy to grasp when you first read AI and human creativity, maybe already some things come up in your mind, but then hearing you speak, there's so much ambiguity around these topics, and it's so interesting to see the different viewpoints. So I really want to thank you all for that. Please give them a warm round of applause for the discussion.
One thing, can I add one thing? Can I add one last thing?
Very short.
Thank you to Mark for the wonderful moderation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And that's it, unfortunately, already for this evening. I would love to discuss many more minutes with you, but we can do that at the drinks in the bar. First, we have a few announcements. Before you can go to the bar, I have a few announcements to make. This was a program organized by Cohesie, and they have other events as well, so definitely check that out. You can go to the website, and they have multiple readings and masterclasses, so make sure to check that for sure. And the next program for designing technology for all would be the big tech and human rights after this summer. So make sure to reserve your spot. We're already quite full today, so make sure to reserve your spot and be there for the next time. And check out the website of Cohesie and the LinkedIn for the event of the Slow AI Symposium. That will be your event as well. 15th of May.
On Thursday.
Yeah, which is this week. So you can check out Flavia one more time and definitely do that. So thank you all very much for coming this evening, and have a pleasant evening. Go outside, have a cocktail, do whatever you want.
Thank you.
And have a drink in the bar. Thank you all.